let's just go back a little bit because that was important. So I think you were explaining about, how the industry contributes so much to climate change, especially, the US defense.
Sure. Yes. So the US military is one of the most prominent polluters in the world. I mean, they have like 800, I think, military bases around the world and are spending trillions a year. Like, it's just crazy. But even just thinking about the life cycle of a weapon, it's such a damaging supply chain and product journey from start to finish. And this is because mining usually happens, like uranium, it has to be mined. So right from the very start, and that's only one element of the weapon or the machinery that we are talking about. Okay, so there's mining that takes place. Of course, in mining areas, there's massive links to human rights issues and so on. Then there's the development. Some of these technologies take 10 years to develop, say. Think about all the energy costs and all the resource costs there. Then the weapons get used in conflict. They release chemicals, they, create debris, they destroy infrastructure in a lot of cases. And generally in conflict, there's no proper clear up. So those chemicals, that debris continues to pollute the places that they have been used for years and years and years to come. So the whole supply chain is deadly. And it's really sad that we are allowing our university spaces, however, it is happening in primary and secondary as well, which I can come back to. But our educational spaces, our young minds should be working towards creating a better future, a future they want to live in. However, the pressure that students are under to choose a degree that can bring them value in the job market later is putting them under immense pressure to go with jobs with companies that actually don't serve them and don't serve the planet and don't serve the people within it.
Yeah. The economic system that we live in, the capitalist society that we live in, is very difficult to see how you can sidestep it while you're in it. So I understand, obviously, people want to have good jobs. They want a nice life. They want to be able to afford a house, and obviously we're going through a cost of living crisis. So yeah, I want to come on to maybe your ideas of solutions, obviously, because you are part of the solution, a bit later. But first of all, I think some people might be listening and they say, well, we need an army and we need defense. And, so how do you counter that point that people, obviously, they want to feel safe, they want to feel like the UK is a safe place. I personally don't, obviously I personally want to go towards a good future that looks different from this one. It's not a dystopian one with robots controlling everything and AI and CCTV. I don't want that future, So, but other people might not realize, or they might, support the army, and they might have been in the army, because I know living in the other thing is, the recruitment thing. Like, I lived in Mid Wales, and I know that the army and the cadets are very prominent there, because there's not that many jobs. So what do you say to those people that obviously, support, and they think, well, we can't not have a military,
Sure. Those concerns are very real, very, very real, and for very just cause. But the first thing I usually remind people is that having a standing army is not normal. It's even in the American Constitution that having a standing army during peace times will happen to a detriment of their security. and it will weaken the democratic system that is in place. Now, if we need our people to stand up and protect their country, I'm sure your listeners, I'm sure most people that I speak to, they will stand up, right? People want to protect their country, and they will be there. And I mean, the previous big wars that we have had, that's when factories as well, our manufacturers have swapped what they're doing to provide for the defense needs at hand. So when we think about that, and then we think about the state we're in today, where our general industry has been depleted, and so much of our industrial power has been given to weapons manufacturers in the defense sector. And we look at the wars that we're in that aren't actually moral wars. It's not fighting fascism and, you know, the wars which really do get the country to stand up. It is quiet, sneaky wars which are generally, and I remind everyone, our defense strategy is literally called Global Britain. So the wars that we're taking part in, the military operations, are to exert influence in other countries and continue having a imperial foot within those spaces. So yeah, I agree. Like, I don't, you know, perhaps we can do better than the current military and recreate a defense force which is actually more suited to our needs right now and can be a little bit more versatile. We have enough technology to, you know, to protect ourselves. We shouldn't be worried. And the reason we are so worried is because the military itself is worried. Now, there is a lot of money, and what I was pointing towards earlier when I said about the primary schools and secondary schools is how desperate our military is to promote that they are the right way to achieve a secure country. And they, since 2012, have spent over £42 million promoting military ethos throughout primary schools and secondary schools. Now, a military ethos is to aggressively defend one's national interest. You know, this isn't a time we desperately need to be thinking as a collective. We are a global ecosystem under stress, under destruction. And they're spending all this money promoting children to think aggressively and individually. So, yeah, we have to remember that the military is webbed in myths. And this is something that we have been looking at. We've just finished editing a video series, 7 Myths That Sustain the Global Arms Trade. We hope they will all be out by the end of May, so check them out on YouTube. But the military puts a lot of work into persuading us, fear-mongering, that we are very, very weak without them, which, you know, doesn't come under general democratic accountability. It's just the message that they have money to push into people. What we really want to see is general auditing, general or real, like, deep research which can tell us, okay, this is what the military is doing wrong, this is how we can improve it. Does the population agree with this? Should we be spending another, you know, X million pounds on these fighter jets when we haven't actually used the last ones very much? All these things which should come under public scrutiny